What is up, everyone? Welcome to the show. This is called SOLIDWORKS Live Design. This is a fresh new season. We are dedicating this episode to AI and SOLIDWORKS, SOLIDWORKS AI, however you want to think of it. I'm joined by my man here, Noah Zeef. What's going on, Noah?
Hey, guys. Happy to be here. What's up, Sean?
Not much. Hey, so we talked about this, right? We're friends, but in this arena, we might be debating one another. We
The
might be
gloves are
going
coming
back and
off.
forth, right? So the structure of this episode, right? It's going to be 3 live takes, 3 hot takes about SOLIDWORKS AI based on some of our observations. We're going to try to prove each one or defend each one over the course of about 8 to 10 minutes. We'll keep the hot take or the live take regarding SOLIDWORKS AI and SOLIDWORKS on the screen along the little ticker. It moves very slowly, so it's not distracting. And we will, once again, or I will try to defend to the best of my abilities what I am reporting there. So it's not always a very controversial take, but it might be something that might be not so widely known. And once again, Noah, it's up to you to keep us honest. And we're looking in the chat, right?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's make it fun. Let's see if I could test your hot takes, and in the chat, if you can poke any holes in it as well, let us know.
Nice. I see people piling in as the producer of this episode, so I'm going to talk to you, Jesse. Jesse, let's go over to our little demo environment, and let's go with our first live take, first hot take for today. All right, so let's switch this up here. All right, so my first live take of today is, here we go. Live take number 1. AI has been inside of SOLIDWORKS for years. Most of us just didn't call it AI. So AI has been inside of SOLIDWORKS for years. Most of us just didn't call it AI. We were 3D experienced. Yeah. Okay. So what are your thoughts so far?
Well, the first thing is, if it's been in AI for years, or if SOLIDWORKS has had AI for years, why are we just calling it AI now if it's really been there the whole time? We haven't been calling it artificial intelligence before, right?
Well, there are a lot of different, anyone inside of the chat who has done software development at some level knows, right, that there are a lot of different software development methods that can go into any bit of what we would say is front-end facing style software, right? Front-end facing essentially meaning the software that we engage with at a UX level, user experience level, the things that we click on, the things that we see, right? We don't exactly always know exactly how they are programmed, right? And on the front end, us being users, like if I'm using Camtasia, Excel, right? I don't know exactly the methods they're using. And it wasn't necessarily something that was hidden, but this is something that I've heard a lot recently. Exactly what you said. This came up on Delivery Day in the chat last week, our video podcast where we exposed new features. So, even if we take a step back though, it's like, what is artificial intelligence, right? That's some people might say artificial intelligence is brand new, right? It's a brand new way of development. It's a brand new way of processing, right? So this idea that AI, artificial intelligence, has been inside of SOLIDWORKS for years, well, I think it behooves us to actually take a step back. Besides AI with CAD software, besides AI in engineering, besides AI in robotics, applications of AI, let's talk about what AI is, right? So that question, what is artificial intelligence? So over the next 8 to 10 minutes, I'm going to start us off here. What is artificial intelligence, and how has it provably been inside of SOLIDWORKS at some level, SOLIDWORKS Design, especially over a number of years? So no, let's
I just want to say, Sean, it's funny. Someone the other day tried to convince me that technically, by definition, a calculator is artificial intelligence. So
really,
I don't know if you could prove that, disprove that.
Well,
but let's see your take. Yeah.
What did you say? I want to hear what you said.
Well, it's kind of just like, look at what AI is doing now. It's so encompassing. It could do so much. It could think so much. If you're trying to compare that to a calculator, they're not in the same conversation. So I'm curious where you're going to try and spin this to tell me where this technology has actually been inside SOLIDWORKS for years.
All right, well, let's full screen this. So that's I think where we should be going, right? In terms of if we're to discuss something like this, I think it serves us well to have a unified definition of what artificial intelligence is. So here's what I come to the table with, that it refers to systems that emulate aspects of human intelligence, such as learning, prediction, reasoning, and decision-making. So let's use your calculator example. Learning, prediction, reasoning, and decision-making. I would say no. I mean, I look at those because really we can kind of break it down into, if you break it down into those four sort of core pillars of that definition: learning, prediction, reasoning, and/or decision making. I would say within the state of a calculator, that is not the case. Let me
It's
know in the
definitely,
chat. You may
yeah,
disagree. This is an open
yeah.
forum.
It's definitely not learning. I don't know if it's predicting per se. It is reasoning and it is decision making. So maybe it doesn't fit this full definition. Maybe it's missing the artificial part. It's just intelligence. You know?
Well, here's what I would say as far as the take is concerned, right? That AI has been inside of SOLIDWORKS Design, SOLIDWORKS products, even overall. For years, we just didn't call it AI. I would say that if we have that functioning definition, that within the scope of embedded AI, as I mentioned earlier, right, at the very beginning, right, as you guys joined, we don't always know exactly how the software that we use is developed, but within each of these cases, there has been AI present. There is AI present, right, in terms of the way that the software manifests in terms of its usability, right? So in a lot of cases, SOLIDWORKS is used training on vast data sets to assist in offering AI across several areas of the sort of universal front end of the software. Here are some select examples. So I have some examples here, Noah, right? So we have things like selection accelerators, generative rendering. That's an area with the denoiser inside of SOLIDWORKS Visualize, the rendering engine, which takes full advantage of NVIDIA technology in that capacity. The command predictor. I also have like when it was most recently updated as well as like a footnote. So each of these we can take a look. If there are any of these that, I'm looking in the chat here, any of these that you're curious about, let me know in the chat. And we could take a look at one of these. But how about Noah? Let's any of these strike you?
Definitely. Auto fastener recognition and pattern recognition has been a really cool one. It saved me a lot of time.
So let's take a
I'd
look
love
at
to
that
check that
here.
one out. Yeah.
So yeah, I have it set up. Basically, we could just take a tour because some of these, like I'm mentioning, that these are areas that are in the software. It's embedded AI, so that AI has been used in the training of the software and the evaluation of certain aspects of the topology here to be able to ascertain where the parts should go, like in this example. But you can see you're not really having to hold any keyboard shortcuts. This isn't like make shortcuts or anything. You're able to bring in neutral file formats as well. So if you're downloading from a third-party site, it's not just toolbox components, and then it's interpreting the size and the range between the mouse cursor and the geometry. And then it's automatically giving you not just placement, but the actual mates that keep them in place. So this is very cool. Yeah, and this came out, dude. This wasn't even this wasn't in SOLIDWORKS 2025 GA. This actually came out during the overall release cycle. So as part of a functional delivery.
So it's pretty new. I'm curious though, when you say this stuff is embedded, it's not hitting the cloud. It's staying local. Is that correct?
It's staying local, and it's also, to get back to the original point, it's not hitting you over the head with the fact that it's AI, right? It's like I would say universally in all these examples, like none of these examples are actually saying like, hey, this is AI, this is AI, this is AI, right? But nonetheless, it's been built with AI, right? So you're seeing these examples. I have I think 8 examples like across that table that I gave there. They're all using AI. Some of them are more obviously than others, but most of them, I would say, in ways that are not under our definition, exactly, once again, hitting you over the head with that very idea.
Yeah, but you're right. The auto fastener recognition, it's learning from your selections. So it knows, I guess, which nuts to pick, which bolts to pick. It's reasoning. It's making decisions. And what was the fourth one? Learning. Or it was reasoning, learning, decision making. I'm forgetting the fourth one.
Yes, sir. So let's go back. Let's go back to that decision, or go back to that definition, right? So
predicting. Okay.
Keep ourselves honest. Learning, prediction, reasoning, and decision making, right? So, and I would say that's a bit of an end-or. So if we say that is our qualification for what artificial intelligence is, and we can get into, a lot of us can, right? What is agentic AI versus general AI, machine learning, right? There are a lot of ways that you can sort of parse what artificial intelligence really is. I would say that each of these, right, that we looked at are examples of embedded AI under that certain definition that appear inside of SOLIDWORKS Design, and then even broader, right, in cases like what we see within SOLIDWORKS Visualize today.
Right.
So If that's our definition, if that's my take, hope that we provably got you there today.
Well, I like the question that we got in the chat. What is then, I guess, different about the AI? I don't know if we could bring that one up again.
Let's see, let's check the chat here.
We also got some interest in the generative rendering from Jesse. No surprise, our rendering guy.
Awesome. Yeah, if Jesse, if you can find that question, I'd love to have it pop up. But yeah, and even if it's beyond the scope here. So let's take a look here at take number 2. So my take number 2 here, as far as SOLIDWORKS and AI is concerned, if we look at live take 2, it's that AI will move much of our work from commands to companions. Have you ever heard it specified that way?
I have. I mean, I think this term companions in general is still pretty new. We've heard companion or commands forever in SOLIDWORKS and all CAD software. So the shift to companions, taking a step back like you did with our last take, what exactly is even a companion?
Well, I was thinking a lot about this. Like, we heard about virtual companions, and we'll talk about those in just a moment. But we heard about virtual companions on main stage. I said it on LinkedIn, where maybe a lot of you became aware of this episode today. I said it yesterday. The virtual companions were like on the main stage so often, front and center, right? But it got me thinking, like, what is it meant to be in some senses? Like, what is it meant to be a SOLIDWORKS user? And even if you take the case of like the best SOLIDWORKS user out there, and maybe one way of measuring that is by the number of CSWEs, certified SOLIDWORKS experts, right? So if you think about what it means potentially in some sense to be a certified SOLIDWORKS expert today, you might know, as an engineer or designer that begins using SOLIDWORKS today, or has used SOLIDWORKS, let's say, for a few months, maybe even a year, a couple years, like, you might know what you need to get done inside of the software because you're good at your job, right? like your products, you're good at your job. What your boss has asked of you. What the project has demanded of you, right? But knowing how to do it today, like which commands to click and when, which workflows to follow, right? When to use global variables, how to order our features, right? Like those sorts of things that can take years.
Yeah.
So, right. Like, so when you think about like what a certified SOLIDWORKS expert is, it is in some sense, it's a lot of things, less than 1% of users out there, right? It's like the creme de la creme of users. But one of the things it is someone who has a super sophisticated and learned knowledge of when and how to use the commands and workflows inside of SOLIDWORKS Design, like in a vacuum, exceptionally well, like at a time basis, and get accurate results. And that is a skill, right? To be sure. But it can take years to get from that beginner to the intermediate to the advanced level. And we're just talking about SOLIDWORKS Design. A lot of us aren't just using SOLIDWORKS Design, right? We're using different add-ins. We're using, PDM. Some of us have dual duties as CAD or PDM admins. We're using platform commands. We're using platform tools, right, to run our processes. We're running FEA. And
yeah,
so,
especially today, CAD design alone is rarely enough to complete your project. You're going to have to put on many different hats, many different softwares, and assume a lot of roles.
So you think about that, right? You got to assume a lot of roles, and a lot of that knowledge, a bulk of that knowledge, you have to, even just to move quickly, like to move as quickly as you want to move, as quickly as you can move, as quickly as you can comprehend in terms of building, right? Designing, like it can take years to do that, right? It can certainly take years to do that. So I took another step back, and I thought, where does the real value of a designer or an engineer live, right? If we're saying that a lot of, in terms of our work inside of SOLIDWORKS, so much of it is we have to memorize commands, know where they go, know when to use them, know when to not use them, how to accomplish certain workflows, that kind of thing. Like, where's your value as a designer or as an engineer? Well, to me, I would say it's not just in commands, right? And let me know in the chat, like where do you feel your value is as a designer, as an engineer? But I made a list. No, I made a list of where I feel it tends to live. So for me, areas like design intent, right? Understanding design intent. Like, is my part designed with our available manufacturing methods in mind? Is it designed, or are they designed for downstream usage, right? Trade-offs. You know, where can I afford to reduce weight, reduce material costs? Things like the overarching business context of where you're operating, right? Like, how does timing, supplier relationships affect my work inside of the tool SOLIDWORKS Design? My constraints, you know, like for example, like questions like what's the build window of this part, given where it needs to fit inside of a given context, a given machine? What's the risk of some of the things I'm doing or thinking about doing? Like, will this change that I'm proposing result in red flags that delay production? And can I afford that? Can I not? What's the overall risk, right? So these are things that have nothing to do, right, with commands, with SOLIDWORKS usage overall, right? But that's where your value is, right? That, to me, like as I see it, and I'm sure you can think of anyone out there, and you as well know, like, where is the value that is derived in being a designer and engineer, and your knowledge of those things, I think, is paramount.
So it almost seems like you're describing these companions as helpers that are going to help you make decisions outside of just the traditional commands that you've spent years and years learning. Because you mentioned there are more challenges than just design, downstream manufacturing issues. And these companions are going to kind of look beyond your initial design to help you with those challenges as well.
I would say help you with workflows overall. Like, like I think that's where it is, in a way that is fitting of a companion. Like, if you think of what a companion is, it's someone that's actually helping you, right? It's someone that's side by side with you. It's not someone that's driving, taking stuff away from you, right? Doing the core of how you bring value to your job, right, and your career. Like, it's helping you. So I see virtual companions as tools or as assistants that are designed to operate really at that workflow level, right?
So it's helping. You think it's a tool? Would you call it a help tool? It looks like we got in the chat. Someone took the words out of your mouth. Think of a companion as evolving from a help tool into a collaborative design partner. I really like that because that's really encompassing of what it's going beyond. There are commands that can help you, there are tools that can help you, but this companion is going beyond that and it's acting as a collaborative partner in your work. I really like that.
And that phrase collaborative design partner, I think we focus so much, and I do too. I often do, right? Because a lot of us kind of come from that space and live in that space today.
Yep.
It's like the collaborative design partner.
Right.
And that's true, but there's also all these other connective aspects that it could potentially help out with, right? To where it's like, how does design map to processes, right? For example, as we get into approvals and change actions and that kind of thing. So the future is almost limitless in terms of how it can help at a workflow level. Workflow, like you said, kind of something beyond design into other areas of our business and how we create.
Yeah, and I think that goes along we're getting some great comments here. I got to shout out to Eric as well, because it goes alongside with what you exactly just said. It's basically anticipating those problems downstream that you're probably going to think of with your experience at one point or another, but being able to have a collaborative designer that's going to propose solutions before you even hit those problems. It's just kind of having someone on your shoulder who's not, telling you what to do or not to do, but just saying, this is what you might want to consider.
Yeah, so I'm taking a look at the chat too. Like, if you guys have questions, in some cases, even if you're like, hey, I don't buy that explanation, tell me. Like, tell us. Like, I want to hear from you. I'm seeing this stuff, and thank you so much for everyone that's chatting here. But like, if I were to even put a finer point on it, I would say, like, instead of you always thinking in the sense of like, I'm figuring out which tools to use. I'm figuring out which tools to use inside of SOLIDWORKS Design, inside of software A, software B, that a virtual companion can stand to sort of help orchestrate the process for you. Like you're still saying like, I need this to happen. And it can suggest things maybe, but you're telling it, I need to do this. Can you do this? And instead of you going click, 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 input, click, 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 input, it's kind of doing it for you at a companion level. So we've been talking a lot though. Like I've been talking a lot. You've been talking a lot. Like, let's look at some actual examples, right? Because I talked about embedded AI. We saw different examples like selection accelerator, silhouette to feature, all these areas that are, maybe trained using AI, right? Developed using AI. But what are some examples of a virtual companion in action here? So let's say, for example, I was looking at a little demo here. We could even full screen this if we like. Let's say we want to say, okay, create an assembly product structure. Create an assembly with some sub-assemblies, right? Here's a product structure for BattleBot, let's say. And then we could even have it move some components around from the top level to maybe a new sub-assembly, right? To change up our assembly structure according to our intent. And we can even have it take stuff away, right? So maybe just keep 2 motors to drive all 4 wheels instead of having 4 motors in total, right? And as it makes those changes, we see it reflected in a product structure, right? And then we also have the assemblies and the parts and the sub-assemblies created. So that's something where if I wanted to do the clicks and I wanted to learn how to make sub-assemblies and I wanted to put the parts in the right spaces and I wanted to name the parts, you could also, let's say, for example, have it give you a prefix or a suffix, depending on how you code or encode your part numbers. These are the sorts of things where it's like, I could do all the clicks. I could figure out how to make this structure. I could write it out in Excel and then make all the assemblies, the SLDASM documents and the SLDPRT documents myself. But why not have a companion do that for us? Right?
That's cool and all, Sean, but let me challenge you here because companions, as you've already pointed out, they can help you with all these features. They can anticipate problems. They can act as your guide. But if someone's a CSWE, they have years of experience, or even if they are not a CSWE per se, they just have years of engineering experience, they know design intent. Does the companion really know design intent? Or is it just kind of, does it have these kind of guardrails that you're putting in place? How much can it help you or can it not help you with making these complex assemblies, knowing that they haven't actually made it before, but you have?
So to be clear, this is not making the BattleBot. And that might not be what you were saying. You might not be saying that. But to be clear as well, it's making the structure, right? It's giving you a structure of what of its understanding, of its generative sort of understanding of what a BattleBot could contain or how it might be structured. It's giving you an assembly structure of that. But what I'd also challenge you on as a rebuttal to that is that you are using the term CSWE as if they're walking up and down the street, like every day in my town, in your town. That's not reality.
Anyone's town. Yeah.
you think you're at 3D Experience World every day. You're not. Like,
if only.
That is not and I got the shirt on right here, of course. Have to get some use value out of that. But no, less than 1% of users, right? And to be able to make a representative product structure of a product, to even think to use subassembly structure, and you can always edit it after the fact, right? But this is giving that introductory structure without having to make all the part documents, all the assembly documents of shared origin, all those things by yourself, taking all that time, all those command clicks, copy, paste, whatever it is, in terms of how you are generating that structure today. And it's going in and doing it. So even if you are a CSWE, it's giving you the ability to do that in pretty much at a moment's notice, right? You're basically conversing with it. You're telling it to promote, demote, rename, mass rename, whatever. These are things you can do Control F, find, replace in Excel, but Excel is not going to make those documents for you. Let's be real.
Right.
That's not going to happen. And once again, if we're using the almighty test case of, is it useful to the less than 1% of users out there, then I think we're doing something wrong. Like this to me would be useful to beginner, intermediate user. Could also be useful to an expert user. What if you don't have this process down in terms of how you're making the actual SOLIDWORks part, SOLIDWORks assembly, subassembly structure, all that down today?
Right.
Like Maybe you do, but are we talking about at this point, it's not even, it's well known it's less than 1% of people. Then at that point, it's like, is it less than point, you know, 0.05% of people? Like at that point, like, what are we actually talking about?
No, that's a great point too. So I agree. I see this being useful in newer users, or not just newer users, but people who are designing something new that they haven't designed before. They don't know the typical product assembly structure of, I don't know, a flashlight or maybe a battle bot or something. So this could provide those decent guidelines.
Okay, so I got a question. In the chat. I'm looking down at the chat, Noah. When is Leo going to be available for us to test? Oh, okay, interesting. When is Leo going to be available?
Great question. The burning question.
Let's talk about that in a moment. Let's give another what if, right? What if? What if we could do this? What if, Noah? You ready?
I'm ready.
Why does assemblies have to get all the love? What about drawings? What if we could converse with a virtual companion, a helper, a workflow helper, right? That's right inside the task pane, right inside that new little SOLIDWORKS Labs, this thing we're talking about here, the SOLIDWORKS Lab icon in the task pane. And we ask it to generate a drawing for us. And what if, aside from just generating a drawing, because there's ways to do that today, we were actually able to converse with it on 8 different criteria of how to create that drawing. And beyond that, we could refine it, and we could also get a preview of it before it generates, does anything, saves any files to my hard drive. We could tell it exactly where to save it, right? We could make refinements based on the image, the sort of preview image that it gives to us. Would that be convenient?
Yeah, I would say wildly convenient. Yes. I do have to challenge you here, though, because with these 8 points, you're going back and forth with Leo a lot, right?
Yeah.
So I need to ask the question, at what point are we shifting the work from commands to companions? And are we just shifting work from commands to companions, or are we actually reducing work? Because if I'm going back and forth with Leo, am I doing a different type of work?
How long is that going to take you to do?
Did I get you? Did I get you?
No.
Let's see.
How long is that going to take you to do all this?
To do what you're going back and forth with Leo on?
Yeah. So
it's going to take several clicks. No question.
So what's happening here? So basically I'm making a full-on drawing. I'm making all these different decisions. I'm making sure, and keep in mind, this doesn't always go so well. Like using CAD admins out there will know, right? Using the right templates, using the right sheet format documents, having something right in front of you saying, hey, this is the one, this is the path. You sure? This is the sheet size. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is the dimension style I'm going to use. This is the drafting standard I'm going to use. Are you sure? Yeah. Do you always have that person over your shoulder? Your boss would you like it if your boss was just over your shoulder looking at you being like, is that you're using the right one? You're using the right option? A lot of times you find out this happens too late. Yeah. It's like you went with the wrong, drafting standard or whatever. You went with the wrong dimensioning style. At this rate, you have a companion that is actually going back and forth with you across, minute, 2 minutes. You're seeing it right in front of you. It is clarifying for you right there, plain text, that you're going to get the output that you're asking for. You can change it. And dude, it's like sending a text message, right? You're just in the task pane. You're just sending a message. Like I would send a message to you. You send a message to me in Google Chat. You're like, nah, change it.
Yeah. The speed is mind boggling. And I also think Jesse makes a good point in the chat as well. He says for him, it's less about how much it gets right as it gets him further along than he would have been faster than he could do it. And to his point, that's going to save him several tasks a day. So I think those little incremental time savers add up. And basically any back and forth you would have with Leo is kind of cut out by the fact that it can do all of these easy tasks, like you pointed out, the templates, all those things. It's like a text message. You write it, and there it is.
Let's go to another one. this whole take, this live take, right? It's that a lot of our work will go from commands to companions. I got a message last Thursday when we debuted SOLIDWORKS Delivery Day, showcasing enhancements across virtual companions, parts, assemblies, drawings, right? The question was, are we just really not going to use SOLIDWORKS anymore? Like, are we not going to have commands? Is that the idea? Is this going to be a chat box? Like,
That's a great question. Yeah.
Is that the future of design?
Yeah.
I don't see that. I say move much of your work, like, and much is subjective, right? There are a lot of things that we don't want to do, or that we might not know how to do in terms of the right click sequence, the right order of operations, that something that is able to execute reasoning and be able to create these workloads for us can do suitably well for us at a companion level, right? So it's not going to take your commands away, right? But it's going to be able to do these sorts of things, again, suitably well. I think that's a good way of phrasing it. But we still have to know how to do things, right?
Yeah.
Once again, the CSWE, it's like, that's someone who really knows the ins and outs of where to find things, how to do things inside of SOLIDWORKS Design. You may know going into SOLIDWORKS, right? I may know what I need to do, what I need SOLIDWORKS to do, what I need my assembly to do for me, but I may not know how to do it. Well, virtual companions can help you there too. So this is Aura. This is a sort of knowledge and know-how virtual companion that if you go into that SOLIDWORKS Labs tab and select Insights, SOLIDWORKS Insights, it can give you information based on your queries. So in this case, how do I make a rigid subassembly flexible so that the subassembly mates become animated, to where I can move the subassembly dynamically, test for motion, test for interference inside the top level structure. And it not only tells me what to do, how to do it, it also gives me some risks of it, some things to look out for. It gives me like the gamut, more than I asked for, right? So I'm able to learn on the fly right inside of SOLIDWORKS. It's like I have an AI mentor right inside of the SOLIDWORKS task pane. Would that be useful?
I would say absolutely, in many ways, more than just regular CAD design. I see we have some simulation people in the chat. What if we could run simulations for us, Sean? Is that the direction we're heading in as well?
Would that be useful?
Immensely, yeah. I would say so.
Well, I think in each of these examples, the hypotheticals, the ones we saw, the what ifs, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're kind of just saying, like, what if instead of interacting with CAD through commands all the time, just summarily, right? All the time, you begin interacting through your goals. Like, what do I need to get done, right? In your case, your example there, that'd be another case. But what I also want to say is those examples that I just showed you, those are not hypotheticals. Those are available. If you watch SOLIDWORKS Delivery Day this past Friday, you know that those examples, several of those, became available as of FDO1 2026. That came out weeks ago at this point.
So everything you've showed, people can already do inside of SOLIDWORKS.
Yes, SOLIDWORKS Design, right. The CAD package, that's the name, SOLIDWORKS Design, right? 2026, FDO1. Or some people think of it as Service Pack 1, but I like to say FD because it's functional delivery. It's delivering you new features, new functionality. So if you're on FDO1, you have that available to you.
I love that, especially in the world of AI today. So often we're seeing things that are promises for the future. This is tangible. This is something I can use today, and it's going to save me time and just increase my output. So, yep. Huge fan of all this stuff.
It is available. So, if I look, it's kind of, I think, where this conversation's headed. It's like, if that is where things are going, where we have these companions that are able to do certain commands, certain workflows, even whole workflows, right, for us inside of SOLIDWORKS Design and related tools, kind of connecting them even potentially, then what does that mean for engineers themselves, right? So that maybe is a natural question that, at least as I think about this stuff, that I get to. And that brings me to the third live take of today, Noah. You ready?
Hit me. Okay,
so the third hot take for today is that AI will make experienced engineers even more powerful.
Okay.
Now, why is it a hot take? Why is it a live take? You might know. You might be sensing it. I'm just going to say it, right? A lot of people would say the opposite. They'd say that AI is going to replace this profession or that profession, engineers, designers, manufacturing engineers, fill in the blank, right? But that's not what I see. But you would see that, right? You go on LinkedIn, go on Harvard Business Review, The Economist. Once again, fill in the blank with the publication, the feed that you're on. It's a very common thing that you would see, right? Have you seen that, Noah? Or
I have seen it. I'm just really looking at the wordage of this take because you're really focusing on experienced engineers, making them even more powerful. SOLIDWORKS has millions of users. And to your previous point, CSW is what, 1%, the most experienced. So I'm curious, what are these AI features that are available today doing for the 80% of users out there? Most of the people who maybe they're not super experienced. Maybe they're just kind of getting up and running.
Well, I would say overall that, once again, you get back to what is the value of an engineer, right?
Yeah.
Like, I would say in terms of why I am seeing things differently in this regard, that experienced engineers, they bring something that AI doesn't have, that virtual companions don't have, right? They don't have a holistic idea of your design intent. They don't have a rich idea of your manufacturing constraints. They don't know the business trade-offs and the product trade-offs that you can make. They don't know the business context that you're operating in right now. They don't know things like, cost awareness dynamically. We know that changes.
Yeah.
They don't know all of those things, right? So when it comes down to that question, there are a lot of things that humans are doing that these virtual companions simply cannot do, right? Without your input, without your direct feedback and interplay.
Yeah, that's a great point. I like how Charles put it in the chat. As with any tool, it's how you use it that makes you successful, which is just so spot on. We could put all these tools at your fingertips, but you as the engineer need to know how to apply it to your situation, your projects, to get the full value from it.
That's kind of exactly where I'm going. Like, I thought about, if you break that out into like two systems, right? So you have your execution knowledge, which effectively is where to click, right? Which commands do I use? And then you have your engineering judgment or your engineering knowledge, which is the question of what should be built and why, right? And so if we look at virtual companions right now, we're saying what it's standing to be able to do at a command and workflow level is free you up when it comes to that execution knowledge. Free you up, whether you just started in your first engineering role or you're 10 years in, 15 years in, to continuously add new capabilities inside of those virtual companions that can do that for you. Free up time, free up creativity, right? So that you can focus, have headspace quite clearly to do other things that are more emblematic of your value as an engineer, designer, the things you actually are in the role to do.
Yeah. That's a great point because you're right. I didn't want to become an engineer if I'm making a pattern, I didn't become an engineer to click this pattern tool 16 times. I became an engineer so I could think creatively. If you're telling me this AI can click this 16 times for me and I could spend more time being creative and think about the overall design intent, that's a win. That's what I want to see out of these tools. And I think that's what we're going to get.
There's another thing too that came up that I want to be clear about since we have a big audience today. And I was hopefully pretty clear about this on delivery day this past week. We're talking a lot because this is a big question. Like, it was a huge question at 3D Experience World. It was a big topic when I'm on SOLIDWORKS Champions member calls, like AI, not just in SOLIDWORKS usage, but well outside of it. It's just like everyone's trying to see, how is this useful? How is it not useful? How is it changing? How's it different than maybe it was, 6 months ago, the tools that we can use and our capabilities? But if you're looking at this and you're thinking, are all of my enhancements or all of my improvements, is my entire experience inside of SOLIDWORKS Design going to be AI? or going to be virtual companions from now on? Like, is SolidWorks Design what it's going to be, and you're just going to add a bunch of AI stuff on top of it? Like,
It's a
and that's
valid
it?
question. Yeah.
It came up. Yeah, it was in the chat.
Yeah.
And I want to use this opportunity to say no. Like, our team, we work deliberately on new features and new functionality. And we also focus very much, like with our video podcast Delivery Day, on showcasing and debuting it, not just in terms of what's available, but what's the best of what's available. And also, how can you use it today? Like in your job, not just how do you click it, but how does it actually function? Why did we make it? How did it even come up as an enhancement? Those sorts of things. So I want to give you, it's a little bit of a tangent, but I want to give you a few looks at how we're doing that. And holistically, whether it's virtual companions or it's these enhancements, these styles of enhancements, new features, overall, I think you're going to see the goal is to save you time, save you headspace, and to boost your creativity savers, whether that's backed by AI or it's not. I mean, that's kind of what the goal, I would say, of SolidWorks is right now. So like we look at an example like this one. It's not backed by AI, but you got access to it broadly just a few weeks ago, right, as part of FDO1. So part of the value of virtual companions, which this is not showing, is the time that's going to be going to free up for your own creativity, right? And that's kind of a core value of SolidWorks. So this enhancement, what it's showing is how beginning in FDO1, which is available right now, you can install it. You have this new tab, import model. So what this does, you might be thinking, hey, Sean, back up. We've been able to import step files for how long? Like SolidWorks Design's value as an importer, as a handler of different CAD file types, just massive list of different CAD file types, is well known, well storied, right? But sometimes with bigger models, bigger data sets, that would take a long time. It would take a long time to open and import, say, that big step file. Well, now in a session, you can go in and say, all right, I'm going to import these files, and it can treat it as a background job, as a background task. So your screen, your interface, your assembly they're working on isn't locked up because you're trying to open and translate and bring in a document. So what is that doing? That's saving time, right? That's saving time. That's saving some space for creativity, because you're not just like, oh, well, my tool's locked up, can't do anything, right?
Yeah.
So that's just one way as of FDO1. And then a few releases ago, a few FDs ago, we kind of go back into the 2025 release cycle, we introduced selective loading, right? So, and this is why, right, we invest in and improve SolidWorks Design and some of the most rigorous modeling test cases, because we know that these are real to you, right? These will save you time, creativity, frustration, and this isn't AI. So what we're seeing here is that we are making a filtered view of a top-level assembly, this big horizontal driller from Vermeer, right? The big flagship customer for SolidWorks 2026.
Yep. Massive assembly.
Dude, it's massive. You work with it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're taking this, and this was our #1 spotlight feature for 2026, because a lot of people hadn't heard of it because it came out during the functional delivery release cycle of 2025. So it was not available in that first SB or FD0. Taking a subsection, using some filtering tools, right? Making like a vice clamp sort of subsection. And then you're able to open it without opening the whole humongous thing, like you said. You're able to add mates. You're able to bring that filter directly into SolidWorks Design, make edits. And then next time you open up the top level assembly of that big horizontal driller, whether that's referenced in a drawing or that's inside of SolidWorks directly or some viewer, it's right there. It's right there. The changes are made and all that. So saves you on performance, gives you a different editing mode. You can even pass these through maturity states. You add them to drawing views. Like, there's a lot you can do with this. So if you missed this, once again, that's the overarching goal. It's to save you time, save you headspace, save you time for creativity, space for creativity. Enhancements like these do that. And then even in the background, right? No, like under the hood, we're still improving the software. Like, just because we're adding new stuff, please do not mistake, we are increasing performance FD by FD. So this is one example, one little example among hundreds, where with linear pattern holes, cuts, we're seeing a substantial increase in the performance of the solve time, the rebuild time of those. So this is even going from like 2026 FD0 to 2026 FD01. But if you're going from like 2023, 2024, and then hopping over to 2026 FD01, yeah, it's like it's probably the previous enhancements compounded with this new jump. And this is big. This is standard practice stuff.
Absolutely. This is huge. And I like how you show a lot of enhancements, not just the core ones inside your design solution in SolidWorks, but those platform solutions as well. Being able to connect to the cloud and use the Vermeer on that, like taking a giant assembly like that, putting it on the cloud and being able to manipulate it like you showed is not easy. It's a totally different animal than doing that local in your SolidWorks. So the fact that you can go back and forth between them is really massive.
Man, no, I've made you a convert. You're not even trying to disagree with me anymore. What's going on here, dude?
Well, let me challenge. So you show me some
I baited him
time-saving
into it. Look at that.
features.
Look at that. I baited him into it. Let's go. Let's go.
Well, how are you fitting AI into that? Let me ask you that outright. How are you fitting AI into those time-saving, the things that are going on in the back end? Is that actually AI?
Overall, in those examples, to the best of my knowledge, my point is that I'm not. like this isn't the fear or the initial question, I should say. Because I don't think it was so much of a fear as it was expressed to me. Was that, are we just going to be interacting with a chat box from now on? To put it in a very minimalist sense, right? Notice like very heavy duty technology in the background, but I understand the sentiment.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at reality and what's being done now, I would say that the answer seems to be no, right? If we look at the latest available information, which is FD01, that was the latest release of SolidWorks, that there were lots of enhancements. And if you go and watch SolidWorks Delivery Day for FD01, which came out last week, our video podcast, you'll see that, right? There are many examples where we're not talking about AI at all. What we are talking about is the core value of saving you time and space for creativity, right? Saving you time in execution of command clicks, saving you time and just waiting while the software is locked up, doing churning on information and data while you could be doing other things. Like that's the goal. And virtual companions kind of represent a new frontier of that foundation. That's what I would argue.
Yeah.
And it's a piece of that. You know what I mean? It's a piece of that overall puzzle, that overall building. It's a big piece.
Yeah.
It's a very promising piece. It's a crazy new piece.
Yeah.
But it's a piece of that. And the rest of it's going to stay.
I like how Mike calls out Jensen's quote from 3D Experience World. Basically how engineers solve problems, but tasks get in the way. And AI takes on those tasks so engineers can focus on solving new problems. That's exactly what I want out of these tools. I don't want to focus on the small tasks. I just want to focus on the big picture, what I'm trying to get done.
Yeah. Modeling steps, documentation, debugging, there's tools can help with that as well. Those are all things that maybe we aren't super psyched about doing all the time. So question, like what's next? We showed you some things in FD01, right? What's next in terms of some improvements or enhancements or some new workflow level capabilities that virtual companions might be able to help us out with? And when might we be seeing these things inside of SolidWorks Design and elsewhere, right? So let's take a step back, look back at 3D Experience World. This was last month. We saw several technology previews, especially if you want to go on that stream. It's the 3D Experience World 2026 stream labeled Tech Updates. That was our big day 2 stream. That's the Jensen Huang stream, by the way. So you can take a look at his keynote as well. So you see I have the source tag there is 3D Experience World 2026. So this was a forward look at some of the things that in their own labs, the Dassault System R&D labs that we were working on behind the scenes. Now, some of the things that were shown at 3D Experience World, as I just said, they have since come out as part of FD01, but many others have not been released. And I think this is a perfect time to reiterate that when we talk about delivery day, FDs, that's multiple times per year. Multiple times per year, we're getting new functionality, and virtual companions are a part of that. So you're going to increasingly see different workflow level capabilities that are included inside of virtual companions as the FDs go along. We have FD02 coming out next month, scheduled for next at the end of April next month, FD02. So we'll see a whole host of new capabilities there, right? Every few weeks this time of year. So if you're curious, for example, if you're out there, you're listening, you're like, I still kind of want to know more about virtual companions, SolidWorks in the chat can give you a page that is dedicated to explaining the purpose of virtual companions, what they are, if you want to digest that a bit more. But what I'd also say, moreover, is that once again, I can't say this enough. We do this for you guys. Like, watch Delivery Day. So this is, you can see the captioned pitch here, but look at all those enhancements. Like, there's tons of enhancements every FD, and Delivery Day is a video podcast that's meant to be listened to and attended even passively. Like, I understand we're on our phones, we're watching Netflix at the same time, right? So we have it on Spotify. You can listen to it. So we're very descriptive about the visuals, but you can also watch it on YouTube. And it's intended to be a sort of show where we have fun. We're conversant, Jesse and I, and we explore like 14 or 15 of the what we see as the most impactful enhancements inside of a given functional delivery release. So check that out. That's on the SOLIDWORKS YouTube. We'll have the next episode up at the end of April to be right there for you when the new slate of enhancements for virtual companions comes out. I'm really excited to be able to talk about. Once again, that's next month.
Awesome. Yeah, there's so much content coming, Sean. I'm excited for it. I'm sure the chat is as well. And to your point, AI is speeding up at such a rate that we're getting more and more features with every FD, and they're coming out, in shorter time spans. It's hard to keep up. So I'll be tuning into Delivery Day. I'll definitely be tuning into another episode of Live Design when we're talking about future upcoming features. And also, to your point, I got to shout out, a lot of those future features have already been released. That beer up to geometry is already in X Design. I've used it, and it's pretty awesome. So this isn't kind of some futuristic, we promise it's coming. No, it's here. It's here. And I love that most of the things you show today are already tools that users can take advantage of. So thank you so much, Sean, for all of your hot takes. I hope I challenged you a little bit in trying to poke holes in them, the chat. Thank you guys for being so active. Is there any lasting questions or last points that you want to make to the audience?
No, I mean, I just want to say, I mean, we're definitely, I think one big point I want to make that we have not made so far, and this is a bit out of role in terms of the hot take, live take thing, is that we have a crazy storied legacy of enhancements, right? In terms of, we hear people like Bruce Holloway, John Sweeney out there talking about how so many of the enhancements, the things that even that enhancement to the pattern cuts, like that was driven out of a report that came from sheet metal performance when it came to pattern cuts. And now it's sort of more globally applied to parts in general. But the point being, we have such a storied history of user-driven enhancements. I don't think that's going to stop with virtual companions. A lot of the things you're going to see, FD01, you've already seen a couple of those, right? FD02, FD03, I'm sure down the line, are going to be driven by actual workflows that can save you tons of time for creativity, for the things you need to do in your job, right? As a companion should be helping you with. So there are so many opportunities, whether it's talking to your VAR, getting involved with enhancement forums to be able to submit your own ideas and your own feedback in terms of how the companions are accomplishing the task, right? So stay tuned in. Like, we are still the SOLIDWORKS community. We are still SOLIDWORKS users. We still operate by that credo, right? Of user-driven enhancements. So stay active, stay alert, keep trying this stuff. And remember, even if a companion, given a certain task or a certain request, isn't doing it exactly to your specification, it doesn't mean in 3, 4, 5 months that it won't be doing it better. So yeah, my advice right now, watch Delivery Day, try it out, upgrade to FD01. And we can't wait to see how you're using these new tools.
Yeah, great point, Sean. If there's anything I've learned about this whole AI wave, it's that what you know today is not going to be the same tomorrow.
More than almost anything I can remember.
If it works or doesn't work today, it's going to work differently tomorrow. So we want to hear from you how you want it to work. But thanks again, Sean. Thanks everyone in the chat for tuning in. And that will do it for today's episode of SOLIDWORKS Live Design. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, Noah. See you guys.
See ya.